really what this is about is how redirect works in regards to damage prevention. And so the question that had come up was, what happens if a turtle is exhausted, an attack comes through, and you redirect it to your turtle? My initial thought that proved to be incorrect was that the turtle, because it's exhausted, would just take no damage, right? Like you just blank the attack.
Like literally when Turtle was previewed, it was one of the first previews from the Jericho deck a million years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And we were playing on Tabletop Simulator. That was how I was playing it against you, like the first week.
Right. Turns out that's not true because of the damage dealing resolution steps. So let me get some of these things pulled up here, and we'll go through both the damage resolution process, which we did a huge rules roundup on damage resolution. So I'm not going to spend as much time on that tonight, because if you're curious about damage resolution, just go watch our YouTube video out on our web channel, out on youtube.com/theshufflebus, and you'll see the AoE spells. But it's
specifically about when damage is dealt to more than one thing at a time.
Right.
But it does contain information about
how the rules
damage
resolution process works. Right. So I'm just going to get the rules themselves up here. So give me just a second here, and then we'll be ready to get this party started. All right. So welcome to another rules roundup. And we like to do these from time to time when something comes up in rules on Ashes Reborn that maybe aren't very intuitive or really sort of stretch both our understanding of the rules and most likely the community's understanding of the rules. And it has to do with the process for redirect in particular. And so redirect, for those of you that are maybe new to Ashes or haven't really read the card closely, says for a charm power, you may play the spell after your Phoenixborn is dealt damage. If you control at least one unit, choose a unit you control to receive that damage instead. So the key word there is receive. That is the component here that is most important. And I think page 16 is where I need to be on this, on the rules. Is that correct for damage resolution?
Is there one that talks about when the damage reduction stuff is applied?
That's what I thought this one did. That's what I was looking for here.
I need to look up turtle also, I guess, because I don't.
Yeah, it's after the deal damage. It says effects that trigger after damage is dealt may now be used. Most of these effects will prevent one or more damage from being received in step 2. Okay, so the situation, let's just say the situation is I've got a Sonic Swordsman, and I'm playing Echo, and I attack. I gravity flux your turtle to open the battlefield up, and I attack for 3 damage on Echo, and you 3 damage onto you, Neil. I'm sorry. You, whatever Phoenixborn you're playing, you play redirect. Turtle's exhausted, right? So let's go to the turtle here. Turtle Guard. Turtle Guard, we can see here, has this special inexhaustible ability called Withdraw that says, when this unit is exhausted, prevent all damage dealt to this unit from being received. So this also applies to anything with armored ones. So I want to be clear that Turtle Guard's not the only one, but Turtle Guard just is a reasonable point of emphasis here. So the redirect says you may play the spell after your Phoenixborn is dealt damage. So what is the damage resolution steps? First, the Sonic Swordsman that was attacking is going to deal damage per step 1 of the damage resolution step. This is where effects that trigger after damage is dealt may now be used. Most of these effects prevent one or more damage from being received in step 2. So your Phoenixborn generally can't prevent damage. There is a card, Safeguard, that allows the Phoenixborn to prevent damage, right? But let's not digress too far. The player then has to receive damage. The Phoenixborn has to receive damage.
Oh my god. sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you saying safeguard now, like thinking about the way that this actually works in rules with safeguard is absolutely ridiculous.
Well,
Because I bet that if you attack with Sonic into a safeguarded BB, if you didn't do anything, the PB would take 0 because it's safeguarded. But if you played redirect, the turtle would take 3.
I think so. Yes. Which is insane, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, so step 2 is receive damage and place wounds. So this is where the Phoenix-born was dealt damage. If you control, you may play this spell after a Phoenix-born is dealt damage, you may control. So after step 1 has completed, but before step 2 starts, the game pauses and redirect can be played, right? Because it says you may play the spell after. Go ahead.
Essentially, there's like 3 damage out in the ether, like waiting to be applied.
Correct.
Which is the same way it happens with like meteor or with attack damage between units, whatever. Like this happens every time damage is dealt. You say, here's the 3 damage from Sonic, and it's sitting here. I don't believe they have a zone allotted to this, but it's just waiting to be applied.
Right.
Or they use the word received.
Right. Received. So this allows you to choose a unit you control to receive that damage instead. Now, intuitively, withdraw makes you believe that it would prevent that damage. But it cannot prevent that damage because what's actually happening is redirect is stepping to stage 2, step 2 of this, which is receive damage.
Right. Step 1 can't happen twice in any situation.
Right.
That's the point, is that step 1 applies now as the damage would be dealt to the Phoenix-born. There's no damage reduction effects in play, so we move to step 2.
Step 2 says receive damage and place wounds. So because this unit is not being dealt damage, but it's receiving damage, withdraw cannot protect it.
Right. And if you read withdraw, and this, I'll take a second to explain this. While this unit exhausted, prevent all damage dealt to this unit from being received. So in this case, when the damage is dealt, it's not being dealt to this unit. So withdraw does not apply. The damage was dealt to the Phoenix-born. It's just being received by this unit instead. Right. So this ability never triggered. It's the same with armor. Armor says after this unit is dealt damage, prevent one of that damage from being received. That's right. And this unit was never dealt damage. The damage dealt was to the Phoenix-born. So armored can never trigger.
Now, if you really want to get tricky, since we were talking about Sonic Swordsman, what's interesting about this is the Sonic Swordsman Sonic Pulse ability is going to trigger. So Sonic Pulse
because that moves on to step 3 then before that happens.
Right. So now, because we've applied 3 wounds from redirect from the Sonic Swordsman attack, now the Sonic Pulse says after this unit destroys a unit an opponent controls by attacking, you may place 1 exhaustion token on target unit. So Sonic Pulse, the swordsman actually ends up killing the Turtle Guard in this scenario. And Sonic Pulse gets to trigger and deal an exhaustion token to another unit in play. What a crazy sequence that is.
Okay, I have another one here. Okay. I'm going to look up this card. Hang on, because I need to read it before I'm sure. So if you redirect from a Grave Knight onto a thing, it deals 1 to the Phoenix-born. And then
you're absolutely right. So let's.
Okay, so that's not as complicated as I thought it was going to be. I thought this was worded in another way, but this essentially has the exact same trigger. Overkill has the exact same trigger as Sonic Pulse or Aftershock. Right. Any of those killer guy things.
And so specifically, when we talk about armored, like a lot of times, armored is a real problem because redirect, or in general, it prevents damage, right? So traditional soft damage dealing effects are really hampered by root armor. But in the case of something like redirect, if you can engineer a game state where the only target to get redirected is something root armored, the redirect's going to deal its full damage to that armored unit. Because armored one says...
You have to really put your opponent in a bind to have them kill their own guy that way. But
agreed. Now,
but that's definitely something that if you didn't know how that works, because it is not
Now,
obvious.
now, just to take this a step further, because why not? We like to do this in rules roundups, right? Like we talk about this stuff a lot. Basically, if you were to engineer this game state where you could Hunter's Mark, you would still get your double damage off the redirect.
Why is that? I have to read Hunter's Mark, I guess.
Because it says when this unit receives damage, place twice the normal number of wound
so
tokens.
Because it just that's okay. So that one's very obvious, just because it says receives.
Right. Because Hunter's Mark doesn't bypass Armored 1, but in the case of redirect, it would. Yeah,
it's interesting.
It is interesting. I've got 300 plus games of Ashes on Ashteki alone, right? And I've never seen this come up.
I'm looking at the full list of cards that say received, and we have covered all cases now, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there's very many circumstances. Nope. What did we miss?
Apparently, it's the exact same thing as the safeguard, but if there's a law of grace in play and somebody like sympathy pains you, you would normally take 1, but if you played redirect, it would deal 2 to whatever you redirected it to.
Right.
That's the same as the other thing.
Yep. Yeah,
I was wrong. True. It's not just safeguard and cover. It's also law of grace.
Yeah. It's wild to me because I understand the damage dealing process extremely well because it came up for me in my early AIL experience, right? Because I was playing Herald so much, and my opponent played a Red Armor, and I just got because I didn't understand.
Here's another good one. If you have 3 abundances in play, and you activate abundance, you can, or is it opponent's spell?
No, it's just if a Phoenix Word is dealt damage.
If you activate abundance with focus 2, normally you would take 0 because of the prevention, but if you redirect that damage, you could deal 2 to a unit you control.
Now maybe that's good. I don't know.
I'm sure you could engineer a corner case where like somebody kneeled you and you needed to open up a slot in your board. You like abundance yourself to redirect to one of your own guys when you have 2 abundances in play. Like obviously
Goldstein, I wouldn't have guessed that's what would happen, but it makes sense step by step. I just want to do something that we can take advantage of instead of a bunch of things where it's bad for the controlling player. But I think Carl says awesome Living Doll buff. Why would the Living Doll get buffed here? That's interesting.
Living Doll is just like something that you want to redirect to, I guess.
Yeah, you could redirect onto the Living Doll, and then
it essentially operates the same as any other unit.
Yeah,
but obviously things that want
just because you can pain link it, you could also redirect onto a String Mage if you really wanted to start like flinging the damage back. But I mean, those are all things you could do anyways. But Carl's mostly sarcastic, but yeah.
But the pain link doesn't interact with redirect at all. I was hoping that maybe it did because that would be kind of interesting. Because you can't redirect a Molten Gold, right? Yeah, one of your Phoenix Word is dealt damage.
Dealt damage, no.
The Living Doll also places wounds, so yeah. I mean, you could have a Living Doll in play and like abundance yourself and redirect it, I guess. But that's a lot of
hoops.
I mean, I understand the sarcasm, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Gold, I think it's important to understand it, not only because, I mean, I'm sure that the player who had Turtle Guard exhausted thought, oh, I'm going to blow my opponent out with this redirect, right? Like,
that's definitely something that needs clarified for not even new players. It's very possible that there are very experienced players that don't understand this, because I knew that it worked this way because somebody told me, but until we just went over it just now, like I didn't actually know why. Yeah.
No, Look, I didn't know. I mean, coming into tonight's stream, like 2 minutes before tonight's stream, this question came up and somebody said, yeah, it definitely kills the turtle. And I went, that doesn't seem right. But I had no time to like do my research. And so, fortunately, resident rules expert Skak jumped into the conversation and made it very clear. And I was able to understand exactly what he was saying once I read his explanation. But It is not the way most damage dealing works in other card games for sure. So if you're coming from other card games, it's very possible that this is a very unique set of circumstances that can come up. But you know, yeah.
Carl, I agree. I mean, good job to the dev team to get that right. I'm sure that at some point somebody came and said that it was a bug, and then they were told that it was not a bug, and that's how it worked.